Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's Heart of CX podcast. I'm Max Ball. Joanna Palmer here joining me. And today, Joanna, I'm really excited about this topic. We're going to talk a little bit about the fuzziness of what is a contact center as we go forward. And with UC and CC coming together, I like to talk about it as I can sprinkle contact center dust around the company a little bit. And there's just so many places where that can fit. So why don't you open up some thoughts on it and we'll just see where this conversation goes.
I'm still picturing you sprinkling contact center dust, Max. Well, this is a great topic, Max. I think the definition of a contact center agent has really I don't want to say it's been muddied because I don't think that's true. I think that it's just expanded based on more of
That's
the
the right
advanced
word.
applications. As I think about traditional contact center, and you think about historically call center, it was really easy. It was who answers our toll-free number, right? Who
Right.
answers those calls? That's a call center agent. And now, as you think about all of the different ways that people interact with your brand, and you think about social, you think about chat, you think about messaging, and you think about all of the intelligence that you can gather from the contact center, and the contact
Right.
center not being that cost center anymore, but rather that strategic partner. You really have a lot to think about in terms of who are your agents versus who are your knowledge workers, and those that aren't fully leveraging all of the contact center technology.
You know what? I one of the things that struck me is that showed me the lines are really blurring is over and over I hear a request for an agent on a mobile device, an agent just on their phone. And, I've talked to enough salespeople who really don't understand context. And I would just laugh and say, no, my friend, no one will do that. But now that's starting to become a real request. Again, this expansion is such a key word because there's, yes, the person who is just answering the 800 number and blah, 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 yep, nearest branches, blah, 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 whatever. They're never going to do that on a cell phone, but there's so many other roles and flavors of things that are starting to happen.
There are. And I think about your various different verticals and your various different use cases here. So, healthcare, thinking about healthcare and some of those healthcare organizations that have all of those various different offices. And so sometimes they aggregate those calls into a contact center and overflow to the receptionist, or the other way around, receptionists into a contact center. And with that, when you start thinking about how to design this, whether those overflows will end up as contact center agents or as just overflows to phone numbers, you start thinking about what's important to know about these contacts. What information do we need from this at the end of the day? And that's not just that pure interaction at that point to have that to create the appointment or whatever it may be, but it may be you need the call recording. You want to apply analytics to see the full customer or patient experience in that case. And so it may make sense to have more contact center agents than you traditionally thought of in the call center. The same with universities. Universities and higher ed are such fun things to think about when it comes to contact center. You've got recruiters, which, as you think about wanting to understand that full life cycle of the student and how to improve your recruitment rate, I would anticipate that those would be part of the contact center, leveraging outbound, leveraging multiple outbound channels for reach out, and then all of the various different areas within your university ecosystem, whether it is calling in for sporting tickets or calling into the registrar's office, financial aid, all of those. You want to be able to have the analytics associated with those contacts, definitely. What are you seeing, Max,
I,
with some of the customers you talk to?
well, man, you just gave me so many things I want to comment on. I think you just hit the thing I didn't get for a long time that now I realize is so critical, which is the data and the analytics. I historically always thought, oh, I can route calls back and forth from a contact center to a local office, and that's the stuff that's interesting. And what I've started to realize is what contact center technology brings across the enterprise is data and reporting. I mean, yes, that other stuff is important, but particularly the use case of I'm talking to an expert, and that
Mhm.
could be a doctor, that could be a financial consultant of some a stockbroker, whatever it is, and you know. For time immemorial, those calls have all been recorded and stored and stashed somewhere. But to be able to transcribe and understand and dig into some of that and see trends, I just think that's a whole, once organizations understand they can do that, they're never going to go back. That
Right. In getting that information and thinking about the transferring to an expert, think about all of the various ways you could slice and understand that data when it's in the analytics engine. For instance, how many of those contacts shouldn't have been transferred to the expert? Where are there gaps in knowledge on a lower level? And as you're thinking about just being able to enhance the customer experience and balance that with operational efficiency and getting work to the lowest cost employee that can handle that work, I think that there's a lot you can do here with understanding what that workflow looks like.
and what are the scripting and what are the tools you can give that lower level
Right.
person, and how much training are you saving having to do, and what, and how much control do you have? No, look, we checked this, we asked about these 4 drugs, we checked this, we asked about these 2 side effects. All of that conversation happened because I can't the agent, I'm even using the word wrong, the employee can't get through the interaction without following the steps. You can have that kind of control. Contact centers have been forcing that for years. And I I think healthcare in particular, we both kind of talk about this a lot. We had with John Poley and just all the exciting things there. I think this is another place where it's going to make such a difference.
Exactly. Exactly. Yes, absolutely. Especially like you said, it's that focus on health and putting that patient in the center and bringing in the experts as needed. And so as you're thinking about that patient in the center and all of those direct interactions with the patient, it almost solves that question of what's an agent? An agent's not what it used to be. An agent may not be an hourly employee. An agent in the contact center is who has direct communication with your customers, who is communicating, and what sort of intelligence can you gain from that? Um, just so much rich information there. And going back to your comment on analytics and data associated with that, thinking about contact centers of the past, it was all about metrics in the contact center: average handle time, average speed of answer, um, you know, average abandon rate, how many abandons, how many answers, and that is important. That's not the most important piece of the puzzle. Most important piece of the puzzle is further on downstream, those conversations and being able to make all of that unstructured data into structured data and being able to mine that data to find out how to enhance that experience is just ever so critical.
Right. And I mean, at some point, sorry, I don't know why I'm so stuck on healthcare here. I guess just because it's interesting and it fits.
Yeah.
I mean, at some point, you're going to have data that's going to help you improve outcomes.
Definitely. And thinking about that further on down, well, let's face it, we're talking business, we're talking we want more revenue at the end of the day. And so a lot of times people look at the contact center cost of a license and are like, whew, that's a lot. Let's skinny this down. But I think it's important to be to look at this holistically. And so as you think about it's an investment. And so that contact center license there, the investment that you're making by broadening the net ultimately is going to drive more revenue. You're going to put your customer or your patient in the center of everything you do. You're going to continue to get this information. You're going to continue to improve the processes, the outcomes, which are
Right,
going to
right,
ultimately drive additional revenue.
right. I mean, I believe the first one of these we ever did was you get what you measure.
Yeah.
And, I think you made a really critical point earlier. You don't want to measure the wrong things.
Mhm.
But my goodness, if there's so much right now that we can't get because we don't have any way to measure. And if you start opening that up and you start being able to get that data and have that and be able to look and say, I'm not going to come up with some clever example on the spot, but it just once you can measure and you can see the difference and you can compare a couple of experiences, let's go back to before. Maybe what we find out is when you do more time with a lower level person and it's more scripted, so that by the time they get to the doctor, it's in a more clear box. Maybe that really improves outcomes, or maybe we find out no, it doesn't. You need to go in a little more open, and you can't even think about that discussion today. And we're not talking about some crazy AI thing. We're talking about existing technology today that would very easily make that sort of thing a possibility.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. And I think you highlight the most critical point here. It really is you're going to win or lose based on the data you have. You're going to become more or less profitable based on the data you have. Why wouldn't you invest to ensure that you have all of the possible data you can get so that you can make those inferences, so you can test your hypotheses, so you can see who the most effective providers are and why, and look at that to
Right.
see where customer sentiment is lax or where it exceeds.
Now that you just walked into a thorny one there. I know a little bit. I've talked to some companies who've dabbled lightly in this. One in particular, they were able to have nurse practitioners on the contact center stuff so they could track them. The doctors, it was like talk to them. There's no way on earth
Yeah.
so you're going to run into just some adoption issues. But I think if you can show a doctor, look, this is going to be and this is going to give you better outcomes. And, maybe you have to anonymize a bunch of stuff. Maybe it's,
Yeah.
I, I I know that doctors who do this get better results. I don't need to know which doctor's doing that. I just need to know that so I can drive the better results. I mean, you may be stuck with doing something like that just to make it feasible.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. And at the end of the day, we just want better outcomes. We want better patient outcomes, better company outcomes, better
Exactly.
customer
Exactly.
outcomes, and just pushing that experience, whether it's patient experience, student experience, customer experience, to be the best that it can be is ultimately going to result in more profitability for your business.
Right. Right. And, what a benefit just in general to be able to do something like that.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. So
Well,
I think that this was good, Max. I think that's a great point to wrap up on in terms of just this is rethinking the agent experience and really rethinking it based on business outcomes more than anything.
yeah. And I think, we can walk away with the contact center is going to seep into more things and make the world a better place. What more could you want?
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Well, thanks, Max. Let's do it again soon.
Sounds great. Thanks, Joanna. Talk to you
All
soon.
right. All right. We'll see ya.
Alrighty. Bye.
Bye bye.